Hey guys, this is Tom Box, and on today's episode of Metatrends, we're going to be giving you guys a quick update on the hand trap trends post-info, especially with the information of Moon of the Closed Heaven being released in the Infinite Forbidden. You know, thanks to Konami EU putting up that promotion, you got a glimpse at that card is going to be in the set. Then we're going to break down the Snake Eye extra deck in the context of Fiendsmith. What are the changes? What are the things that they are considering? I'm going to break that all down for you in a second, as well as give you guys a comprehensive list of the end board threats to be expected in this coming WCQ. And I'd just like to say that it's a real blessing being able to talk about Moon of the Closed Heaven now without creating false hypotheticals, because, you know, honestly, that's been a burden for me. Yes, I've known for quite some time now. But let's jump back into this video, starting off with a little bit of a hand trap trend update. So over the past 3-4 weeks, I've already proxied most of the cards I've been play testing with the information that I had, and I would say two hand traps really stood out that really just decimated the turn. One being Drone Lockbird, and the other one being D-Shifter. For the decks that can play these two cards, they should play it because they have the highest amount of impact. Whereas multiple hand traps, say you have multiple hand traps like Ash, Veil, or Imperm, those cards are way less effective once Fiendsmith gets shoved into the package, because Fiendsmith offers you multiple things. They can obviously pivot around your hand traps for one, you know, disrupt your Nibiru, stuff like that, go into Appaloosa really early, and just force you to burn hand traps out of nowhere. And then you play the regular Snake Eye package in combination, they're just not going to have enough for anything. And even if you do somehow stop the Fiendsmith package from doing something, like you stop them from going into sequence or whatever, then they still have a sequence link too, which allows them to get another different kind of pivot, going straight into Promethean Princess and just bypassing all your plays altogether. It really just ruins the effectiveness of hand traps in general, to the point that you need something as disruptive as a turn skip via the D-Shifter, via the Drone Lockbird. So those are two major cards. But there's also the new hand trap coming in, Mulcharmy Perulia. So for the Mulcharmy, I asked you guys, hey, would you guys main deck this card or side deck this card? 11% would main it, the other 89% would side it or not even play it at all on this current format. So why is that? For people choosing to main deck this card, let's take a look here. It does say that, hey, they're catering towards Snake Eye being the more popular matchup, which, you know what, kind of fair, to be honest, because, like, if the representation is high anyway, you're likely going to be able to capitalize off of the card, even if it's not good against like a lot of other matchups. Fair. I mean, if you're going to be playing like maybe playoffs, it could become a tech choice if you're choosing to go blind second, because if you're going second, you're just trying to dig for more board breakers, hand traps, more outs, and you force your opponent to play around it because you have to shotgun the card. So that's actually a bad thing, because if you shotgun the card, that means some people will know how to play around it, especially if they play Fiendsmith, where they can basically play the Snake Eye combo without normal summoning a single Snake Eye. So that's the other thing. Now, for the people who chose to side it, the 89% of people that would side or not play it, there's just so many dead matchups right now that it's just maybe not worth playing. And there's also, like, this isn't the format, preemptive use is not that great. What if we draw this as a 6 card? Because 6 card Maxi Syndrome feels really bad. Alright, during the Zodiac format, if you draw it as your 6 card, man, does it feel awful. But, you know, it's still perhaps worth adapting in the side deck going second. So you can, you know, capitalize on your board breakers, maybe dig for more hand traps, and if you open 2, it doesn't feel that bad because you can activate both of them. That's what this card offers over Maxi. But, you know, it's kind of interesting. So in terms of your likeliness of running into this at, you know, the upcoming WCQ, not very often, I would say, especially in the game 1, but maybe games 2 and 3, you may see this card come in just to kind of throw you off your rhythm. Next, we're jumping into the Fiendsmith package. If you're going to be playing Fiendsmith, you're already probably practicing with this deck, you know, in terms of proxies or online, whatever the case may be. You're testing it out and you're probably realizing this one thing: the extra deck is super tight. Like, what do you even take out for your Snake Eye stuff? I mean, for other decks, it's a little bit easier, especially when you're not as committed in your extra deck. But for Snake Eye, your extra deck is already super committed into those particular monsters. But to break it down, to shove in a package where you have to play Requiem, you have to play, you know, Lacri, maybe you're playing Desiree, but you have at least those guys. And also, you need the Moon of the Closed Heaven. This had like 3 monsters. There's about like 3 monsters right here. 4 monsters. So you need to cut 4 monsters out, which is like really tight already. All right, you have 15 cards, you're dedicating another 4 cards to these monsters, and maybe you're playing Desiree as well. So it's a very tight package. All right, so it's between 4 to 5 monsters. What do you play? Well, in terms of like end field bosses, let's kind of start from the end and then kind of go backwards of what we're cutting, what we're trying to put in. Looking at Enfield bosses, do you continue to play the Appaloosa? Appaloosa is one of the more fantastic starters because there's Appaloosa, Desiree, Hope Harbinger, and DDD Wave High King Caesars as your end board monsters that offer you some level of negation, and they're really good to open on your turn, and they're really good to finish on the turn. Appo provides you with, perfect solo hand trap negation. When simplified game states, it's once per chain, and it does lose to spell trap negation or a double hand trap scenario. All right, because you just activate one over the other, and then boom, your Appaloosa kind of fails. Then there's also the Desiree. It's a Omni negate. It's hard to target if you have sequence attached to it or equipped to it, and then it's once per turn. But this card does lose to Nibiru because it's a hot red dragon Archfiend Abyss where you get to target, well, you don't target the card, you activate to negate a card on the field. And then there's Hope Harbinger, which only deals with spells and traps, but also controls the battle targets so that you can protect your Appaloosa, which is the current trend right now of what people are doing, but it loses, of course, to Impermanent Droplet. And then there's also DDD Wave High King Caesar, which is an easy setup which protects your board from Nibiru. It does lose to Hand Trap plus Nibiru, which Appo already lost to, so that doesn't really make that big of a difference. But it also dies to negation versus and book-based plays. Is this card worth it? But it's such an easy setup, so it's also super oppressive too, because like when your opponent attempts to do special summons via effect, whether it be from Poplar effect from hand, or it's the effect of, well, what's another effect that gets a summon, like original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, you can get those stuff, and DD Wave High King Caesar would have a certain level of impact. And they're choosing between some of these monsters because the extra deck is so tight. And why is it so tight, and what are they considering cutting? These are the monsters on the chopping block, but let's break them down so you can probably make an educated decision on which one you want to run. So Zelantis and Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, these two go hand in hand because obviously the Raging Phoenix, they break the Firelock when you're under Promethean Princess, Graveyard Follow-Up, and bridges nicely into Zelantis. Zelantis offers you, battle phase control for the most part if you can co-link it so that you get to, destroy monsters, keep your Appaloosa alive a little bit longer. It's easy to summon. It does require a little bit of a build-up, but again, Raging Phoenix kind of takes care of all of that. And why would you want to play something like this? Well, compared to OCG has Deco Takahito. That was kind of their go-to. They still have Link Karibo. They can link Karibo with the Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, get yourself a card back. Beatrice, a fire monster into the graveyard, and then get the Ash back into your hand. So that's kind of what they can do. But we can't do that here because we have Relinquish Anima, and instead Link Karibo is banned. So that's one of the considerations for to keep the top two pair. Then there's the second pair of Selene and Axis Kotaker. Well, Selene can bridge into the Appaloosa, which is also very nice. And trust me, I'm keeping this card in because it's just such a nice bridge into those monsters. All right. However, it kind of forces you to cut something to keep her there. And it's a tough one. It bridges nicely into Appaloosa and Access Code, and it's also a light monster for Lina. And I'll get into more details about Lina in a second because of, Fiendsmith existing, and, Effect Veiler is likely going to be heavily played for the next bit. But this card essentially is a combo piece, not exactly high stat. But, you can also use it to go into an easy access code talker for an OTK. But this card's solely for an OTK purpose. It's easy to summon. It has a lot less dependencies because you can kind of run this as a solo monster and just hang out on its own. So looking at the next couple of monsters here, these are kind of more utility. We're looking at Dark Charmer. It's an Anima follow-up because it used to be our Link Karibo follow-up to take away the Witch. I'm not sure if taking Witch is the biggest deal right now. I think just trying to take someone's Fiendsmith and kick off a Fiendsmith combo just generates a lot more monster in comparison. But this is the card that a lot of people are just typically going to cut first, just because why not? The format's moving a bit more light oriented for the time being. And yeah, there's no Link Karibo, so it's a little bit harder. It's mainly for Witch for the most part. Maybe you steal a Magnum Mutt, something like that. And then there is the Relinquish Anima. It unbricks the one Poplar play. If you don't play this, then the one Poplar play is gonna feel very, very weird because you can't link it off and then just start generating bodies. That part you're just gonna have to expect, because that means you're just gonna have to go Poplar into not the field spell, but into original, go for Oak and try to kind of get your play from there. It's not very strong, okay? And you're just gonna have to rely on Fiendsmith. So, but then if you shove in the Fiendsmith package, you should be able to get additional summons just because you have that package. So that is another card that people are considering cutting. I kind of cut it for now during my current phase of testing, and I put a Celine back in, and I've been enjoying just the easy Appaloosa access. Now, what about Lina and what about Top Hat Hair? So Lina is kind of an interesting one. The more I played with it, the more I wanted to cut it in terms of Snake Eye. I get that for other decks like Melodious, for light decks, for the Voiceless Voice. They would probably still enjoy this, and they may shove in a little bit of a Fiendsmith package themselves. It's just so easy to play because it's light, doesn't really restrict them on anything. It's kind of a neat package, all right? And so, like, it's weird because you want to use this to steal Fiendsmith. If you already have a Fiendsmith, you would not make this, so it's kind of pointless. If you can make 2 monsters, you just go for Moon of the Closed Heaven. It's kind of making Lina a little redundant, more risky to get hit by a hand trap. So the more you play with it, the less effective it is for Snake Eye to try it. But you guys can, know better. You guys can definitely try it out yourselves. And then, of course, the new monster. I should have talked about this monster a little bit more, which is going to be this is which one do you call it? The Top Hat Hair. This is the illusion link that cannot be destroyed by battle, and if you summon a monster from the spawn trap zone, so it does work with Flamberge, it will activate and destroy a spell and trap on the field. So this becomes spell trap removal. But the key thing is that you get to search for like the angel statue, so you get to negate a summon, or you search for Silhouette being able to just target a card on the field or target multiple cards on the field and negate those as well. It's a little slow, but I think it's still very effective, at the very least, to disrupt your opponent, so it can become an end board monster for a lot of decks. And it's generic, it's very easy to make, and I don't think it actually clutters you very much. So these are the packages that people try to keep just so that they can remove 4 to 5 spaces for the Fiendsmith package. So we talked about all these big monsters that are ridiculously powerful, and that's a perfect segue into some of the end board bosses that we're likely going to see, and I'm trying to kind of categorize them with the decks that you're likely going to see them from, so let's bring them down. Yes, the format is pretty wide right now. I'm pretty sure the leftmost column are the monsters you're most likely going to see, and then it starts to get a little bit more niche as you move to the right. But to break it down package, the left side is likely the Snake Eye Fiendsmith stuff. So from DDT, Wave Hiking Caesar giving you the double summon negation on special summons, on effect based special summons, and then you have Desiree being able to negate cards. OCG plays a lot of Desiree, and to them it makes sense. It stops evenly, it stops a lot of spell-based disruptions. Appaloosa is such a major threat. An IP leads to an SP, so these are the types of threats you're looking at. So you have tons of removal, and then utility, of course, there's the Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon, and in the graveyard you have the Fire King Garunix, plus you have also Promethean Princess that can come back from the graveyard that also acts as removal against your opponent as well. Of course, usually that's like the last option. Otherwise, IP and everything kind of gets shut down. Now, for generic removal, there's Super Poly. There is going to be Top Hat Hair. Beatrice could, throw us for a loop, because if they just go for, lockouts, then Beatrice is just going to be all the more dangerous. I think even for Labyrinth, if they shove it in there, they can be easy rank 6 to play with. And they can definitely manipulate the trap cards with transaction rollback for them. Fenrir is just a generic card that a lot of people will play. And Super Poly, I just got a hunch that Super Poly will likely see more play than you guys will give it credit for. And then there's gonna be Sacred Tree Beast Hyperiton. This is, of course, the plant package of Rika Sheet, a Bengal Lancer, Therian King Regulus. That's all coming from the Therian package. Yes, that's likely going to see play. I mean, in Europe it did really, really well. I'm not sure if that's gonna follow through post info, but I am going to respect it. For Tenpai, of course, there's gonna be Hermetic Seals of Heavenly Spheres and the Fadra. I made a mistake once attacking into Fadra, and triggering a whole bunch of effects that led to my own demise. Just be careful. If there's stuff in the graveyard, just don't go into battle phase unless you're really ready for it, because that card cannot be destroyed by battle, all right? And then for some of the Whitewood threats and Centurion threats, Cosmic Blazar Dragon paired with the Crimson Dragon, the most dangerous combination leading into the Hot Red Dragon King Calamity. Like, it's so hard to stop. And I think they can kind of do this on their Shifter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's like one of the decks that likely could probably see a little bit of Shifter play if they so choose. Then this next line of monsters, Guardian Chimera, Mirror Jade, Albion, of course that leads to the Gimmick Puppet, but the deck itself has just so much removal. And speaking of removal and disruption, there's also the Birthmit play, which could lead to Diabelze. I guess I kind of forgot to put the card there. And there's also the option of some people synchroning into Dissipator. I'm not sure who's going to be doing that. Sprite, of course, they got their Sprite package. I don't need to really talk about it. I guess another set of monsters would be more Omni Negates, and I guess even Spell Negate from the Voiceless Voice package as well. There's just so many threats available, but these are the ones that you're probably going to see the most for the most part. And yes, I do think that there's going to be more Rika, Ragnar Rika, because the less someone knows about a deck, the more likely that it's going to succeed, because people don't know how to disrupt against you if they don't play test against it. And it's already been proven to be very, very strong. I just think without a ban list, these are all strong contenders for everyone. That's all I got for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I'm moving my office at the moment, so there might be a time where there's just going to be a bunch of shorts out there instead. Who knows? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys at NEWCQ. I'm going to be casting, so make sure you guys sign up for feature matches. Check out MSTmerch.com. Hit like, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next one.